All right, so move on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my thoughts on the things that AEW can improve on. So let me establish this before I get deeper into this segment. I am personally a fan of AEW, of All Elite Wrestling. And it's okay to be a fan of AEW and be a fan of the WWE, because nowadays it seems like it's like a Democrat and Republican side of which wrestling show you're allowed to like. But me personally, I like AEW and WWE, so it's good to be a fan of multiple wrestling products, and I think that's really the goal of wrestling nowadays. I mean, we're in a really good era of wrestling in the year 2024, and it's good to be different. I mean, AEW is a company that's different, that stands out, and gives you a different product than the other bigger companies in wrestling today, because we have the WWE, we have AEW, we have the emergence once again of TNA, New Japan Pro Wrestling. I mean, it's good to like different things and have a scapegoat from the other company once you want to watch and be entertained by something different. So there's nothing wrong with being a fan of those type of things in 2024. But let's get into the things that AEW can truly improve on. Let's start off with number one. AEW truly needs to get back to the golden days. And when I mean the golden days, AEW's golden days was when the company started in late 2019 into the early months of 2022. That was peak AEW. That was peak All Elite Wrestling. That's when Vince McMahon was on his last stand with WWE. Booking decisions were terrible. And when we got tired of Vince's crap, we could switch over to the new thing, the newest thing on the block, which is AEW. And their ideas really felt different. It didn't feel like they were trying to copy any other wrestling company. It didn't feel like they were trying to compete with any other wrestling company. Well, they were trying to compete. They were competing with NXT on the Wednesday Night Wars, but it just felt different. Felt like a different breath of fresh air. Something that you can say, hey, this is different from the other company I'm watching. Right now, it doesn't feel like that. And right now, I feel like AEW's lost their touch, because the golden days on a weekly basis, on a weekly Wednesday or weekly Friday, when Rampage was actually good, that's another thing. Make AEW Rampage more important again. But it was must-see television from the start of AEW. Even through the pandemic, it was still must-watch TV. All the way to the early part of 2022, and just didn't feel as special anymore. So I think AEW needs to get back to making weekly television actually feel special. If I miss a week of AEW, I'm like, I feel like I didn't really miss much. And you look online, you really didn't miss much. Let's get back to those days. But another thing AEW needs to improve on is more storylines. And AEW, this is the thing. AEW has so much television time on a weekly basis that they should be giving us some more stories. You have Wednesday, AEW Dynamite is a 2-hour show. You have Friday nights, AEW Rampage, which is an hourly show of non-stop action. Then you have Saturday night, AEW Collision. That's another 2-hour show. When you do the math on that, that's 5 hours of television weekly. What stories right now does AEW have right now to make me say, oh, I got to tune in the next week? And I'm not trying to compare them to WWE. But for instance, let's just say this as an example. When Cody Rhodes gave up, or we all thought he gave up his WrestleMania opportunity to The Rock to face Roman Reigns versus for The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, we were all glued on the edge of our seats. We were all for Friday night. From Friday night to Monday night, all wrestling fans wanted to see what was going to happen next. With 3 shows that AEW has, they don't have a compelling story that makes me go, oh, I got to tune in the next week. Oh, I can't wait to watch on Collision. Oh, I can't wait to watch on Dynamite. They do not have one single story right now in their storylines that is a compelling story that has you on the edge of your seat. They just don't have that right now. And what really matters in AEW, what really matters if I had, for example, Bryan Danielson versus Ricky Starks at the end of 2023 summertime, they had that strap match. Incredible match. Could have been a 5-star match, however you like it. But where was the story? had a 2 to 3 day build. Then another prime example, MJF versus Kenny Omega match is big enough for an AEW pay-per-view. And instead, we're just going to put together a 2 to 3 day story, compelling story of it, because MJF is about to break Kenny Omega's record. So we're going to have MJF defend the title against Kenny Omega in a week build-up. You can't do that. You have to have a compelling story, build a story, so when you have the match, it has more importance. It actually gives us a reason to go back and watch it. AEW needs to do that. There's not enough storytelling for these matches, because that's why I'm going to get into. Well, actually, I can get into that right now, because I can have Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is one of the greatest wrestlers I ever watched. And I put him in a match, a random match, with somebody at the caliber level of Bryan Danielson. I just throw the match up. It might be a 4 to 5 star match, but what's the importance of it if it does not have a compelling story? AEW needs to do better on that. But next thing they need to do, please stop mentioning WWE. The product will only grow off of your own production of what you put into it. Stop mentioning WWE and promos. Stop throwing shade and shots at WWE on social media. Just stop. Just stop, because the AEW needs to work on their own issues before you target any other wrestling company. And if you continue to call out WWE, how are you going to be different from WWE? You're supposed to be an alternative from different wrestling companies that I just spoke about in the beginning of the segment. Because there's a lot of... The WWE is not AEW's only competition right now. I mean, TNA is starting to heat up again as well. So, and I understand they got a partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but they could easily find them... If they don't get it together, they could easily find themselves as the third best wrestling company in terms of the big market wrestling companies right now in wrestling today. So, in order to those shots at other companies, I think you got to be on the top of the mountain, on top of the food chain. And I think I can speak for a lot of wrestling fans right now. That's where WWE is. They're at the top of the mountain. They're at the top of the food chain. And if they wanted to, they're the ones that could throw shade. But they don't do that because they actually have professions running the business. Tony Khan needs to stop. He needs to work on his own issues. Seriously. I won't get into the issues I got off the top of my head because I like AEW. But now this is the real big problem to me. Tony Khan has to start utilizing his talent more than he does. I mean, he has to use his talent correctly. He's like a child with an unlimited amount of toys to play with. You just have too many toys that you just forget about the older toys, or you just forget about the other toys that are sitting there because you just have so much to play with. And that's why I feel like Tony Khan is with this AEW roster, because he's fumbled his two biggest stars that he's had since AEW started, and Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. They have taken their ball back to the WWE, and they're big time stars, one of the biggest stars their company has to offer. But Tony Khan has fumbled guys like Miro. He's fumbled Keith Lee. He's fumbled Brian Cage. He's fumbled Lance Archer. He's fumbled Ethan Page. He's fumbled Wardlow. He's not using Jay White correctly. They have all not been utilized correctly. They might have had their moments, but they have not been utilized correctly to their full potential in their AEW run so far. And they definitely dropped the ball on Andrade El Idolo. That's the reason why he's back in WWE right now, because Tony Khan didn't know what the hell to do with Andrade El Idolo. Britt Baker is one of their top women stars, and she should not be sitting on the sidelines right now. Your women's division is starting to pick up steam, and your top star, Britt Baker, should be involved somehow, some way in a top storyline right now. Whether it's for the world title or not, Britt Baker should not be on the sidelines. Then you have a top star, Malachi Black, who you got from the WWE because Vince McMahon fumbled him. You just gave him his first singles match in over 600 days last night on AEW Collision. Tony Khan, and I could get on with Adam Copeland as well. I feel like Adam Copeland is not being treated enough as a top-notch star. Like, he's a former WWE Hall of Famer, and I feel like he's just stuck in the mid-card section for All Elite Wrestling. He could be one of your top stars. So I just feel like Tony Khan has to do a better job utilizing his talent, because you've seen Cody Rhodes leave, you've seen CM Punk leave, you've seen Jade Cargill leave. It's going to keep happening if you don't utilize your talent the right way. But last thing they got to do is they got to focus on pushing Swerve Strickland to the moon. Put a rocket on his back and push him to the moon. Because Swerve Strickland could be the cornerstone face of AEW that AEW is going to need in the near future. Because Swerve Strickland has stepped up when guys like Kenny Omega, MJF, Adam Cole are all out right now with injuries. And he stepped up and showed why he's world championship material. I think if you push Swerve Strickland this year and give him the world title, whether that's at Revolution or not, he could be your star that you need for the next 5 to 10 years in All Elite Wrestling. But again, I am a fan of AEW. I want AEW to succeed. But it all comes down to, do they really have the right man for the right job in Tony Khan? But those are the things that I do believe that AEW needs to improve on in the near future.